Have you heard of status Thymicolymphaticus? In the 1920s, it was thought to be one of the leading causes of sudden infant death syndrome, commonly known as SIDS. The idea came from a 19th century Austrian pathologist studying the autopsies of infants that died of SIDS. He discovered that the infants all had abnormally enlarged thymuses, or thymi, or however you want to pronounce it plurally. He hypothesized that the oversized thymuses suffocated infants by pressing down on the trachea while the infants slept. In order to shrink these enlarged thymuses and prevent SIDS, pediatricians actually recommended irradiating any suspiciously large thymuses. This practice continued until the 1950s. But here's the rub. There is no such thing as status Thymicolymphaticus. The reason doctors thought these infants had enlarged thymuses is because they had only ever seen the thymuses of poor malnourished infant cadavers. For obvious religious, cultural, and personal reasons, securing human remains has always been a struggle for the medical profession. So to keep public friction to a minimum, doctors preyed on the powerless poor, mentally disabled, imprisoned, and enslaved populations for their cadavers. Beyond the horrible moral and ethical issues with such practices, the doctors were learning from people that were anatomically different from their paying customers. Being malnourished and in a constant state of stress, people that live in poverty secrete hormones that suppress the immune system. And relevant to our story, this can cause immune organs like the thymus to shrivel up. So actually, doctors were irradiating normal, healthy-sized thymuses because they had only ever studied economically disadvantaged thymuses. And predictably, in comes karma. The thymus that is relatively large in infants sits below the thyroid gland, which was inadvertently exposed to radiation. This sadly led to tens of thousands of needless cases of thyroid cancer. But surely we're doing better today, right? We are, but probably not as well as you might think or like. As recently as 2002, unclaimed bodies made up 40% of the cadavers at the University of Maryland Medical School. In 2010, Illinois passed a law to increase unclaimed body usage. And where exactly do these unclaimed bodies come from? In 2009, during the economic downturn, unclaimed bodies rose in LA because people could not afford funeral costs. Ironically, there is an option to avoid going unclaimed and reuniting your remains with your family at no cost, and that is to donate your body to science. This form of coercion may even increase the tally of donations to make it look like we are doing better than we think. Because economically disadvantaged populations receive worse healthcare, some might find it disturbing that the segment of the population that receives the least benefit from the knowledge gained from their donation is not free from a system that exploits their inequality even after they're dead. But if it doesn't bother you, status Thymicolymphaticus makes it clear that healthcare inequality still does affect you. I'll end with a few questions for my fellow medical students out there. Do you know the demographics of your cadavers? Does your school even keep demographic information? As a solution to the cadaver shortage, do you think medical students should be required to pledge their body to science if they choose to take part in the anatomy lab? Do you think the anatomy lab is even the most effective and efficient way to learn basic first-year anatomy? I've tried to answer some of these questions myself, but it wasn't as simple as I first thought. And I'd be extremely interested to hear what you have to say.